Hello folks, and welcome to TK Power Sports. This is an exciting video because I get to tell you all about this, the brand new 2026 Kawasaki Teryx H2. The H2 was honestly a pretty poorly kept secret, and Kawasaki has been teasing it now for months. So finally we have all the details, and I'm gonna run them down for you right now. Let's start with the big headline, and that is the power plant. So the powertrain in this Kawasaki Teryx H2 is a 999cc liquid-cooled 4-stroke inline 4-cylinder engine, which now packs a supercharger, which means it's putting out a total of 250 horsepower and 146 pound-feet of torque, and that is sent through a continuously variable transmission. And because I'm sure you're curious, here is how it sounds. The fact that the H2 is supercharged makes it unique in this pure sport side-by-side segment. We have turbocharged models, but no supercharged models, and there is a difference just in the way those two things operate. A turbocharger relies on exhaust gases from the engine to power it, and then in turn the turbocharger provides more air for the engine, whereas a supercharger is mechanically driven straight from the engine. That turns an impeller, and then that sends added air to the engine. The idea with the supercharger is there is no lag. It just has this more linear feeling to it, unlike a turbo. Kawasaki says that the supercharger is modeled after units found in the Ninja H2 Hypersport bike. Now, the supercharger is housed in cast aluminum, and it is mounted centrally behind the cylinder bank, which allows it to deliver its compressed air evenly to all 4 cylinders for balanced power. In this case, the supercharger is driven by a robust planetary gear train, and that is connected to the crankshaft via an idler gear and a chain. To make sure you can actually use all that power, you need good suspension, so let's go over what's on the H2. Kawasaki is going with a typical double wishbone in the front and offering 23.2 inches of front travel, while in the rear they're using a 4-link trailing arm setup offering a full 24 inches of travel. Now, base units will get Fox 3.0 internal bypass shocks, and then upgraded deluxe models will get Fox live valve with Kawasaki electronically controlled suspension, or KECS, K-E-C-S for short. So yes, if you step up to the more expensive deluxe models, you're going to be able to control that suspension right from the cockpit using a toggle switch, and you can set it into soft, normal, or firm. It will also use a ton of sensors to be reading the terrain underneath you and then adapt to what's going on in real time. On-the-fly electrically selectable 4-wheel drive is included here, so you can switch this H2 from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive, and then 4-wheel drive fully locked. Yes, there is a locking front differential, so you can make sure you lock up all of those wheels if you want maximum traction. There will be 2 different trim levels and then 2 different models of this unit. Let me explain. So you'll have the Teryx 4 H2 and the Teryx 5 H2. Now, that number is how many passengers you can bring. So if you opt for the 4, you're just getting 4 bucket seats. If you go for the Teryx 5 H2, you'll get a bench seat in the rear. And even if you go for that 5, every single passenger will get a 4-point safety harness. Now, besides that, there will also be a base and deluxe model, but the Teryx 5, at least for now, is only going to be offered as the deluxe, and then the Teryx 4 H2 you can get as base or deluxe. Now let me run down some other important numbers. So this is a pretty big unit. It has a wheelbase at 126 inches. Overall length here measures in at 159.4 inches, width at 74 inches, and height at 71.5 inches, and that goes up a bit depending on which model you get. Now ground clearance measures in at 16.1 inches, so that is a pretty epic amount of ground clearance. And then for weight, well, the lightest model, which is is the base model 4-seater. That comes in with a dry weight of 2,291 pounds. Step up to the Teryx 4 H2 Deluxe, and that weighs 2,362 pounds. And then the heaviest model is the Teryx 5 H2 Deluxe, which weighs 2,373 pounds. For rubber, the H2 packs a set of 33-inch Maxxis Carnivore Plus tires wrapped around 16-inch wheels, and on the deluxe models, those are beadlock wheels. Now, behind those wheel and tires, there are some pretty big brakes too. We're talking 270 millimeter disc brakes. The front brakes get 3 piston calipers, while the rear brakes get twin piston calipers. Kawasaki did talk a bit about sort of how this thing is going to handle out there on the trail, and they also made a point of saying that this H2 model was very specifically designed for wide open spaces and to be out in the desert running at high speeds. So they talked about, first of all, that the power steering is speed sensitive, so when you're just tooling around parking lots at slow speeds, it's going to be real light, and then as you speed up, as those speeds increase, it's going to get, a little bit heavier in your hands, a little bit stiffer, offer some more feedback. Kawasaki says that there's a very quick steering rack here, and you're going to be able to get full lock in those tires in less than 1 full rotation of the wheel. So that does sound pretty quick. I'm excited to sort of feel that out there in the real world. And then there's also different power modes here. There's 3 of them. You can kind of think of them as 60%, 80%, and then 100% of the engine's power. So you can choose any one of those different modes based on what you're riding in, sort of how delicate you want to be with the throttle, or even just your skill level. Maybe you're not ready for full power, so you can dial that back using the different power modes. On the interior, everything we see in this H2 is pretty reminiscent of what you see in the KRX. So you're getting a 7-inch high-quality full-color TFT display right in front of the driver, giving you all of your pertinent information. There's also an accessory camera that can be installed, so you can get a backup camera that does turn on when you put the unit into reverse. And then on the deluxe models, you're also going to get a standard 10-inch Garmin Tread infotainment system. So that's down in the middle. And when you have multiple units, there's group ride functionality, there's mapping, you can store maps and download them and take them with you. There's all kinds of different functionality. Plus, of course, there is an audio system on the deluxe models as well if you want to listen to your music. When it comes to interior storage, Kawasaki says that there's a lidded compartment built into the dashboard with 2 USB-C ports built into it. There's a passenger side glove box, of course, and inside there, you're going to get a DC socket with up to 120 watts of power, which is pretty cool. And then on the Teryx 4 H2, there's a large pocket in the center console, which provides additional storage. Now, normally that would be where that Garmin Tread goes, but if you get the base model and you don't get the Garmin Tread, well, they are giving you additional storage, which is nice. Well, we are coming to the end of this one now, folks. We do have to touch on pricing and availability. So first of all of these models for this model year will only be available in lime green, and there's 3 different models. You have the Teryx 4 H2 base model, then you have the Teryx 5 H2 Deluxe and the Teryx 4 H2 Deluxe. So pricing for the base model in the United States starts at $37,199. Pricing for the Teryx 4 H2 Deluxe starts at $43,199, and then the Teryx 5 H2 Deluxe is going to sell for $43,699. And Kawasaki expects these models to be hitting dealerships in August of 2025, so basically right away. Now, folks, what can you say? This is exciting. It's so cool to see a brand like Kawasaki jump ahead of everybody in the horsepower wars. In the side-by-side segment anyways, this usually isn't what Kawasaki does. They're generally more conservative, but not anymore. They decided to really go for it with this Supercharged H2, and I can't wait to get behind the wheel and give it a try. And as soon as I do, I will bring that video to you guys. So yes, that's it for this one. Now, of course, I need to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think of the H2. Are you impressed by the 250 horsepower? I want to hear everything you have to say, so drop in the comments. Let me know. As always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to TK Power Sports and see what we're testing next. See ya.